Hello again, everybody. This is part 6 of my journeys in the footsteps of my grandfather. I'm James Champion. I went to India in 2006, as you will have seen in the previous parts, and here is the next section. Just before we get into precisely what I did in that next section, I'd just like to show you two very nice pictures. This is a picture of my father, taken in front of the Forest Rest House in Ranikhet. This picture was probably taken in about 1933, and you can see him there standing in front of the building with his topi at an interesting angle. And here you can see my father standing in exactly the same position 74 years later. Some people who were travelling with us were teasing my father, saying he should be classified by the Archaeological Survey of India as an ancient monument, which he was not particularly amused by. You can see that the building is actually in better condition today than it was back in the 1930s. Yeah, that's the sort of nostalgic thing that we did a lot of when we were travelling through India. Now here's another wonderful house at Kausani, and another place that my grandparents stayed in when they were on their tours of inspection through the forest. You can see my father again with his topi at a strange angle standing in front of the house, and here you can see the same house today, another house being built just in the background there, but it is indeed the same place. And from there, I then went to join some researchers in the Rajaji National Park, in the Chilla range of the Rajaji National Park. And these researchers from the Wildlife Institute of India are actually using a modernized version of the original camera trapping technique that my grandfather used. In this picture you can see a camera concealed in the upper hole of a post. And what these researchers are doing is placing these camera traps around the national park. And when a tiger comes through, it takes its own photograph, but there is also another camera on the other side of the track, and by analyzing the photographs and therefore being able to see the stripe pattern on the sides of the tiger, they're able to say how many tigers are left in the park. So that's a very useful way of assessing tiger numbers. And of course, if you want to protect the tigers, you absolutely need to know how many tigers are left. Now here's actually a picture that was taken by that particular camera trap in 2006. You can actually see in the background the post containing the other camera. These pictures are of course taken for purely research purposes, but if we go back to one of my grandfather's pictures, you can see that his camera trapping technique, even for the 1920s, or even for by today's standards, the pictures are remarkably good. This picture was perhaps one of his most famous, but my grandfather, ever the perfectionist, was not completely satisfied with this picture. You may notice that on the left-hand side there is a sort of archway of bamboo. Well, actually there was also the completion of the archway on the right-hand side, which my grandfather had carefully positioned so that if a tiger came along, it would be framed by the bamboo. But unfortunately, before the tiger came along, the bamboo on the right had bounced back, so the archway was not complete. However, I think it's still a pretty impressive photograph. Now here you can see a picture of my father actually firing the tripwire. I would imagine that my grandmother was behind the camera, focusing the lens on the position where the tiger's head would have been likely to be when it put its forepaw on the wire. You can see my grandfather's legs in the background. I'm not sure whether my father was actually supposed to fire the camera as well, but it's lucky that he did, because it's very nice to see the picture showing how the system worked. You can actually see the tripwire passing underneath my father's hands. Now, I was of course desperate to see a tiger. Going in the footsteps of my grandfather in India and not seeing a tiger would have been a real disaster. Here we can see one of the tiger's favourite food sources, the chital, or the spotted deer, but no tiger. Here we can see the type of habitat that the tigers live in. This is still in the Chilla range of the Rajaji National Park. They particularly like this long grass you can see low down there, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you can see one crossing the stream in the middle of the picture. Needless to say, I did not at this stage. We did see wild elephants. There's a good population of wild elephants there. And if we move to the next picture, we can see a wild elephant that my grandfather had a rather dodgy experience with. This elephant was walking towards him, and as you can see, it doesn't look in a very friendly state, and it turned almost immediately after this picture had been taken and charged him. He dropped the camera, ran for his life, hid behind a tree, but you can see that an elephant like that could have knocked many trees down. But luckily it lost sight of him, and he was able later to go back and retrieve his camera, and the picture was able to be developed. And here you can see the banks of the river Ganges. It's just opposite the towns of Haridwar and Rishikesh. You can see the elephant footprints and elephant droppings on the bank of the river. And of course I was quite desperate to see a tiger, and indeed we did see some tiger footprints or tiger pug marks, but no tigers. Now that's the end of part 5. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part.